It's January 2nd, the year 2000, just 2 days into a brand new millennium. In Asheville, North Carolina, Zebb Quinn finishes his shift at Walmart and heads out for a low-key evening. He's planning to meet up with a former coworker, Jason Owens, to go look at a used car. But a little after 9 p.m., something goes wrong. Zebb suddenly pulls over at a gas station and tells Jason he got a page and needed to return the call. Then he just vanishes. 2 weeks later, Zebb's car turns up at a barbecue restaurant parking lot. Inside the vehicle are some bizarre clues, or red herrings, but there's absolutely no trace of Zebb. What begins as a simple missing persons case quickly spirals into something darker. A trail of staged evidence, suspicious injuries, a mysterious love triangle, and years later, a confession from a man who was already convicted of another brutal, unspeakable crime. And investigators believe they know exactly who killed him. So what happened that night? And who was the quiet, kind-hearted teenager at the center of it all? I'm Sarah Reed, and this is Sequestered Season 2, Case 5, The Disappearance and Murder of Zebb Quinn, Part 1. In January of 2000, Asheville, North Carolina was still more of a mountain town than a tourist destination. Downtown had a few quirky cafes and vintage shops, but nothing like the art scene it's known for today. There were still empty storefronts, quiet neighborhoods. The River Arts District was mostly warehouses. And if you needed something reliable, like a job, you might work in food service or retail, like Walmart. Zebb Quinn worked at the one in South Asheville. It sat right off the main drag, Tunnel Road, surrounded by chain stores, fast food joints, and the Blue Ridge Mountains hanging in the distance. The nights that time of year got dark fast, cold too. Daytime highs were in the 40s. The roads were still icy, and if you got a page, you pulled over and found a payphone. There were no GPS apps, no smartphones, just back roads, gas stations, and a kid trying to buy his first car. Before the headlines, before the missing posters, before the cold case unit would reopen his case, Zebb Quinn was just a normal 18-year-old kid, born May 12th, 1981, the same year as me, actually. We were just 7 months apart. That's part of what makes this case stick with me, because I remember exactly what it felt like to be 18 in the year 2000. Your whole life ahead of you, still figuring things out, still coming home for dinner. Zebb lived with his mom, Denise, and his sister, Brandy. His parents divorced when he was 2, so it was just the three of them weathering life together. In an article from the Asheville Citizen-Times, his sister Brandy mentioned that Zebb enjoyed caring for his fish and that he was particularly gentle with animals. It's a small but memorable detail that family and friends often repeated to emphasize how sweet-natured he was. He was quiet and kind. He worked hard, stayed out of trouble, and was somewhat of a mama's boy. Zebb had just graduated from high school and was navigating the push and pull of early adulthood. He was taking his first full-course load at Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College and working part-time at the local Walmart to pay his way. He was determined to buy his own car, something dependable, so he could stop borrowing his mom's. It was a small milestone, but for Zebb, it meant freedom, independence, a chance to take another step into the adult world that he was just beginning to build for himself. Zebb was finishing his shift at Walmart that Sunday night, January 2nd, 2000. He clocked out around 9 p.m., wearing a striped shirt and jeans. Coworkers remember him being in good spirits that night, chatty even. He mentioned to a few people that he was meeting up with his buddy, Jason Owens, after work to go look at a car. Nothing unusual, no sign of what was to come. Robert Jason Owens was a bit older than Zebb, 25, and used to work in the same electronic department with Zebb at Walmart. They weren't best friends, but they got along. Sometimes they played pool together, and on this night, Jason offered to drive with Zebb to check out the car together. The two left Walmart in separate vehicles. Zebb was driving his mother's light blue Mazda 626, and Jason was in a Ford Taurus. The plan was simple. They'd head north toward Leicester Highway, meet the seller, and check out the car. Zebb followed Jason out of the Walmart parking lot. According to Jason, a few minutes passed, and then Zebb suddenly flashed his headlights. Owens later told police it seemed like a signal to pull over. At 9:15 p.m., security footage shows both cars pulling into a Citgo gas station. Zebb got out and told Jason that he'd gotten a page and needed to make a call. He used the payphone outside of the store. Here's a clip from News 13 WLOC's documentary, The Good Kid.
And the key to finding out exactly what happened to Zebb may be in retracing his final steps on the night he disappeared. And we now know that he came here to this Citgo at the corner of Hendersonville and Long Shoals Road because he came past these doors to use this phone to return a page that he'd received. We know that because Zebb was caught on tape.
Quinn was last seen in this Hendersonville Road convenience store at 9:14 at night with Jason Owens.
When he came back from making the phone call, Jason said Zebb was very excited, and he just drove off, and that was it.
And then, things got strange. Owens told investigators that when Zebb was leaving, he rear-ended him. He said Zebb apologized and that he seemed shaken, and then he told him he had to cancel the car appointment and go take care of whatever the page was about. Then, according to Jason, Zebb just takes off. Jason claimed that was the last time he ever saw him. Just over an hour later, Jason Owens admitted himself into an urgent care center and was treated for a head injury, several rib fractures, and abrasions that he said he sustained in another car crash that night. He claimed he had hit a deer on his way home, but his injuries and the timeline immediately raised suspicions. Over the weeks to come, Owens' story would change multiple times. And that story about Zebb rear-ending him, that wasn't sitting right either, because there was no damage to Zebb's car, no visible signs of any collision at all. Investigators would later question whether it ever even happened, or if the story was just a convenient way to explain Owens' own injuries that night. That night, Zebb's mom, Denise, waited up. At first, she figured he was just running a little late. Maybe he lost track of time. Maybe the car appointment had taken longer than expected. But by midnight, she was pacing. And by 1 a.m., she was calling around. Friends, coworkers, anyone who might have seen him. Zebb wasn't answering his pager. He didn't call. He didn't show. By morning, Denise was panicking. She called Walmart, she called his friends, and then she called the police. Because deep down, she already knew. This wasn't like him. Zebb wouldn't just disappear. One of the first articles we could find about Zebb Quinn going missing was published in the Asheville Citizen-Times on Sunday, January 9th, 2000, just 1 week after Zebb vanished. The article, written by staff writer Phil Alexander, was titled, "Buncombe Family Trying to Find Missing Teen." It captures the earliest moments of panic, uncertainty, and the desperate hope Zebb's family clung to after he failed to come home. The article outlines what little was known in those early days. Zebb Quinn, 18 years old, had just finished his shift at Walmart on Hendersonville Road around 9 p.m. on January 2nd. He left the store with a friend to go look at a car for sale, but never made it back. Even in those first days, Denise Quinn told the paper she had a sinking feeling something was very wrong. But Zebb was 18. And as his mom said in the article,
"Police have told me his disappearance doesn't seem suspicious for now."
Of course, we know now it absolutely was. 2 days after Zebb Quinn goes missing, Jason Owens calls Walmart pretending to be Zebb Quinn. He said he wouldn't be into work. Here's an interview with Zebb's supervisor from WLOC's The Good Kid.
I got a phone call here at the store, and it turns out it was Jason Owens calling in saying that he was Zebb Quinn and that he was not going to be into work. And I knew that was not Zebb's voice. And so as soon as he hung up, I hit star 69 on the phones to find out that it was traced to Volvo Construction Company where Jason Owens worked.
Jason made a phone call from his place of employment to Zebb's place of employment, pretending to be Zebb. I mean, that's policing 101.
Exactly 2 weeks after Zebb Quinn disappeared, another headline from the Asheville Citizen-Times sent a ripple of hope through the community. The article, written by Susan Dryman and published on January 18, 2000, read, "Missing Buncombe Teenager's Car Found. Zebb's 1990 light blue Mazda, North Carolina tag KXK 5057, was discovered in the parking lot of Little Pig's Barbecue on McDowell Street in Asheville. Zebb's mother had received a call from one of his former classmates saying she had seen his car in the restaurant parking lot next to the hospital. According to Asheville Police Captain Ted Lambert, the car had not been there since the night Zebb vanished, January 2nd. It seemed like someone had moved it after the fact, maybe even tried to hide it. And what was found inside the car made everything even more bizarre.
This drawing found on the back of the missing teen's abandoned car is something police say they can't say they've seen before.
On the back of the car, there was a set of lips that was drawn on the back window of the car. And on each side of the lips is an exclamation point. Now, this could have been drawn with, a lipstick, crayon, magic marker, or paint. And we're not sure when the drawing was placed on the car.
Inside the car, investigators found this, a magnetic hotel key. So far, they haven't been able to trace where it came from or who used it last.
You have a hotel room key, and the local police somehow can't pull any usable information off of it. You had, I believe, a jacket that maybe was not Zebb's size. And then you had this pair of lips drawn in red lipstick on the back windshield. Just bizarre.
Once the car was found, that really, made it seem like it just didn't make sense,
A live black Labrador puppy, a hotel key card, and a pair of lips drawn in lipstick on the back windshield. There's no ID, no signs of Zebb, just a series of strange, disconnected clues. Here's news coverage from WLOC.
Police now know the car was parked here at the Little Pigs parking lot sometime between 9 p.m. Saturday night and 8:30 Sunday morning. What police don't know is why it took nearly 2 weeks for the car to turn up at all.
I think it was placed there to where it would be found easily. If not, then we'd have found the car behind the warehouse out in the woods or something like that.
As investigators tried to make sense of the car, a haunting reality started to set in. Zebb hadn't just run off. Zebb's sister Brandy told the Asheville Citizen-Times that it wasn't like him to leave his family in the dark. He was sensitive to that kind of thing. He'd even get upset when his mom didn't tell him where she was going. Here's the other thing. Jason Owens' version of events was starting to fall apart quickly. At first, he tells officers Zebb accidentally rear-ended him, but we know Zebb's car showed no damage from a rear-end accident. Then, Owens shows up at urgent care with multiple injuries, stating he, quote, hit a deer on the way home. But no scene was ever found. Then, he called Walmart pretending to be Zebb. And then, he just stopped talking. Even in 2000, his actions weren't just suspicious, they were damning. By late January, Citizen Times columnist Robin Tomlin reported in her piece that Zebb's mother, Denise Quinn, had already been searching for weeks, posting flyers, speaking with psychics, and calling police every day. She told reporters,
None of this adds up. Zebb loved his job. He just bought a DVD player and satellite television system. He was looking ahead.
She added,
He doesn't have a coat. I've been wearing his coat.
In that same article, Denise Quinn wondered aloud, if this was a crime, why leave the car in such an obvious place? And what did the puppy, the lipstick mark, and the hotel key mean? The pain of not knowing was unbearable. Denise told columnist John Boyle in another article,
To not know is horrible. I don't know whether I should grieve or wish him well. If someone would just drop us an anonymous note or tell us where he's buried, I just want to be able to find some peace.
And then a local couple came forward reporting to police that they saw Zebb's Mazda being driven on Tunnel Road by a white female about 25 to 30 years old with light brown curly hair. From their description, a composite sketch was made.
In the weeks after Zebb's car was discovered, abandoned outside Little Pig's Barbecue, Asheville police received a tip from a local couple. According to reporting in the Asheville Citizen Times on August 6th of 2000, the witnesses told investigators they were out driving when they saw Zebb's light blue Mazda, but it wasn't Zebb behind the wheel. The couple said a woman was driving the car, with a man in the passenger seat. The sighting stuck with them because of the car's resemblance to Zebb's and because of the unusual behavior of the people inside. They told police they believed the woman they saw matched the description of Misty Taylor, a young woman who would later become central to the investigation. At the time, Misty Taylor denied having anything to do with Zebb's disappearance, and there was never enough evidence to confirm whether it was truly her driving the car. But the sighting raised an important question. Who moved the car? And if it was Misty or someone connected to her, why? Police never publicly confirmed the couple's identities or released any additional details about their account. But to this day, it remains one of the only known sightings of Zebb's vehicle in motion after he vanished. The composite sketch was later said by the couple that it only moderately looked like the female they saw, but I can attest, and it could be confirmation bias, but if you put the composite next to the picture of Misty, it looks pretty similar. We've put both of these images up on our website, sequesteredpod.com, if you want to see them for yourself. So who was Misty? And how would she be connected to Zebb? That eyewitness account of a woman driving Zebb's Mazda and the resulting composite sketch raised immediate suspicion. Police began asking, who could that woman be? And why would she be behind the wheel of Zebb's car? At the time of Zebb's disappearance, Misty was a young woman from Arden, North Carolina, known to be in an on-again, off-again relationship with an abusive boyfriend named Wesley Smith. It's reported that Zebb was romantically interested in Misty, and the two had been developing a relationship. Multiple people, including Zebb's coworkers at Walmart, later told investigators that Zebb had been spending time with Misty. Some even described it as a budding romantic interest. But there's more to it than that. According to reporting in the Asheville Citizen-Times, Zebb's supervisor, Patty Andrick, said he had recently told her he was scared and that someone had threatened him. Though he never said exactly who, the context pointed to complications around his connection with Misty. So when a couple claimed they saw a woman who looked like Misty Taylor driving Zebb's car days after he went missing, it couldn't be ignored. Was she helping someone cover something up? Was she afraid? Or was she more involved than anyone realized? Misty Taylor wasn't just a passing name in the investigation. She became one of the most talked about figures in the early days of this case. Zebb's mom, Denise, his father, and his sister all spent time walking investigators through those last days. They retraced everything: Zebb's shifts at Walmart, his conversations with friends, and his interactions with Misty. They believed this triangle, Zebb, Misty, and Wesley, might hold the key to what happened. So how does Jason Owens tie into Misty Taylor? The short answer is he doesn't. Not directly, at least not then. Despite being the last known person to see Zebb Quinn alive, despite telling police that he and Zebb had gone to look at a car together before Zebb got a page and abruptly left, Jason Owens had no apparent link to Misty Taylor. According to investigators, Jason didn't even know who Misty Taylor was, or Wesley Smith, her boyfriend. There was no known relationship, no shared friends, no social overlap, except Zebb. That leaves us with a chilling question. If Jason and Misty weren't connected, why did Zebb disappear while in Jason's company? And why was Zebb's car later spotted with a woman who looked like Misty behind the wheel? Was Jason simply a pawn in something bigger? Was he helping someone else? Or was he lying about what really happened that night? Years later, detectives would revisit this triangle again. But even then, they reiterated, Jason had no motive tied to Misty. And yet, he would become the case's most persistent shadow. When Misty Taylor was questioned, she told investigators that she met Zebb through her mom at Costa's kitchen. She said they were just friends and that her boyfriend Wesley knew they were friends. According to WLOS, investigators spoke to Misty Taylor 6 times and Wesley Smith 3 times between the years 2000 and 2009. In fact, years later, when investigators obtained a new search warrant connected to the case, it focused not on Owens, but on Misty. The warrant cited Zebb's affection for her and mentioned that her boyfriend at the time had a history of being abusive. Still, police were careful to clarify. The person named in the warrant was not considered a suspect or even a person of interest, just someone whose name kept coming up, and someone whose connection to Zebb had never been fully explored. One official said it wasn't a new lead, it was unfinished business. Loose ends left dangling in a case that had grown cold far too quickly. And even with the search warrant, there was one problem. As one detective put it,
just obtaining the samples doesn't mean we necessarily have something to compare it against, because at this point, we don't.
Months passed, still no sign of Zebb. What started as a missing persons case was quickly turning into one of Asheville's most baffling unsolved mysteries. As the calendar flipped to January 2001, Zebb Wayne Quinn had now been missing for a full year. A year with no answers, no body, no concrete evidence of a crime, just silence and grief. On the 1-year anniversary of his disappearance, the Asheville Citizen-Times published a piece by Tanya Maxwell titled, "Questions Abound in Quinn Case." The article captures a community still waiting, a family still hoping, and a mother slowly coming to terms with the idea that she may never know what happened to her son. Zebb's coworkers at Walmart hadn't forgotten him. They kept a vigil going, his name tag, photos, flowers, and flyers pinned to a vest at the store where he'd worked. Customers still asked about him. His supervisor, Patricia Andrick, said she hadn't even decorated that year for Christmas. "Zebb helps me put them up," she said, "and this year, I couldn't bring myself to do it." The article describes what Christmas Eve looked like for Denise Quinn in 2000. Denise hung Zebb's stocking again, the same one he'd had since his first Christmas. She told the paper she missed his holiday excitement, how he used to rise early and wait patiently for his mom to give the green light to open gifts. He would have been 19 years old that day. And still, Denise Quinn refused to believe he simply left. She said,
"My boy can't be alive. It wasn't in him to just vanish."
Everyone who knew Zebb agreed. He wasn't the type to disappear. He used to sneak into his mother's room late at night to let her know he'd made it home safe after work. He reported his whereabouts like clockwork. But that was Zebb. He was consistent, he was careful, and he didn't run away. Even Captain Ted Lambert of the Asheville Police Department admitted how baffling this case had become. He said,
"At times, it's frustrating. There just isn't closure for Zebb and his family. That's not to say he isn't still alive."
But the only thing that had surfaced in the past year was more mystery. On what should have been Zebb's 20th birthday, May 12, 2001, his mother placed a deeply moving ad in the Asheville Citizen-Times. With a photo of her smiling son, she wrote,
"Zebb, I miss your eyes, your smile, your laugh, your presence. Happy birthday. Love always, Mom."
She called him a sweet baby, a cuddly little boy, a warm and loving young man. The ad ended with a chilling reminder of all that remained unknown. May 12th, 1981, to ? A life paused in time, a mother still holding space, grieving, waiting. Theories piled up, and so did the frustration. Zebb's father, Jerry Quinn, believed the answer was simple. He blamed Misty Taylor's boyfriend, Wesley Smith, and didn't mince words about it. To quote the Spin magazine article, quote, "I'll choke the piss out of him," end quote. Zebb's mother, Denise, took a different path. She channeled her pain into action. She plastered the town with missing posters, pushed for media coverage, and even put up a billboard near the restaurant where Zebb's car was found, begging for answers. Meanwhile, suspicion around Jason Owens quietly grew. As we know, Owens was the last person to see Zebb alive. And here's something that rarely gets mentioned. The morning after Zebb vanished, Jason Owens' own mother reported him missing. He hadn't come home. He missed work. And just like Zebb, he had disappeared, at least for a while. And Misty's family, they denied everything. Her mother, Tamra, told Spin magazine that she was tired of being harassed, frustrated by the whispers, the rumors, and the constant suspicion. And that's where the trail stayed. Suspicion, silence, and a growing sense that no one was ever going to talk. And in the middle of it all was Zebb, an 18-year-old kid who kept showing up for work, kept helping his mom, kept his head down, and then just vanished. Not just from the road that night, but from the priority list of a system that should have gone looking harder. Zebb Quinn's family never stopped looking, but the trail was cold. And the one person who knew more than he ever let on would disappear into the background for the next 15 years, until another tragedy brought his name screaming back into the headlines. In part 2 of this case, we take a deep dive into the investigation, a second look at Jason Owens, a search warrant, and another murder case 15 years later that brings Zebb Quinn's name back into the headlines. To see photos, source documents, and behind-the-scenes content, head to sequesteredpod.com. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts for ad-free episodes and bonus material. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time for part 2 of this case.